Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled Celina City Board of Education meeting for Monday, November 16th, 2020. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Summer, roll call, please.
Mr. Sell.
Here.
Mr. Flack.
Present.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Here.
Mrs. Voorhees.
Here.
Mr. Huber.
Here.
Thank you. All board members are present. Entertain a motion to set the agenda.
I'll make motion.
I'll second.
Before you vote on that, I'd like to add that under section C, we have item number 8 as an addendum to the agenda. That would be on the white paper that was attached to your agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ken. Roll call, please, on the agenda.
Mr. Huber.
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees.
Yes.
Mr. Flack.
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Yes.
Mr. Sell.
Yes. And since we're Zooming things tonight, there would be no one here from OPSI in person or from the CEA. A motion for the approval of the consensus agenda,
I'll move.
seconded by Mr. Flack, Mrs. Voorhees, Mr. Summer.
Okay, I'm asking you to approve the minutes of the October 19th, 2020 regular meeting and the October 28th, 2020 special meeting. Asking you to approve the financial report for the month of October showing revenues of just over 3.7 million and expenditures of just over 3.56 million. I'm asking you to approve the investment control report as of October 31st, 2020 with an ending balance of 12.78 million. Asking you to approve the October 2020 SM2. I'm asking you to approve the checks written in October 2020 of just over 3.24 million. And item number 6, seeking board approval for supplemental appropriations that were listed on the attachment. This will add appropriations to 2 federal grants related to COVID.
Total amount of those grants, Mr. Summer?
One is the Coronavirus Relief Fund for $143,895.41, and the second is the Broadband Connectivity Fund at $151,466.16.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is to approve the auxiliary services transfer of $5,500. It's just carryover funds for the auxiliary services going from grant year 2020 to grant year 2021. Item number 8 is to approve an application for tax abatement through the Celina Reinvestment Area Tax Exemption Program for Mid-America Properties Incorporated. It's a 100% abatement for 12 years. It's 3.22 million in improvements. In accordance with this agreement, we've also got an agreement for that Mid-American Properties will be paying us $27.30 annually over those 12 years. If you remember a couple years back, we also had an abatement, and on that one they're paying us $35.38 a year.
This is 27,000?
No, 2,730.
There we go.
I like the other one.
Would you mind, me being new, ignorance to tax abatements and stuff, what is the approval of this versus the rejection of this? I was looking it all over, but I would also imagine that many people watching online have no idea what this means.
You want me to handle that, Tom?
Or
Carl,
one of my colleagues.
Being the tax liaison. Tax liaison. It's the CRA abatement. It's through the city of Celina. That abatement allows commercial properties. Since this is all rental properties, it's classified as commercial, not residential, so it does qualify for the abatement. If we would not approve it, they would still be up to a 75% abatement without our approval. So basically, it's a wash. I think it's 20 or 75% abatement on that same property came to like 2680, something like that. So, and they agreed to a 10 mil in lieu of payment, where we typically collect, I believe it's about 38 mils, 37 mils. So it's pretty much a wash either way. If we do the 100% and get the in lieu of payment, or reject it and they get a 75% and pay us normal through the.
Why is a rental property not charged? They could presumably have children in the schools, we could have an increased enrollment.
Because they are all enrolled, or they're all owned by one person and rented out. The difference in this 3.2 million that he's actually invested, that's not how they're taxed. They're only taxed by income. So the actual taxable value of it is like under $800,000.
Okay.
So it's not anywhere near the 3.22 mil valuation number. through
So
the article.
it sounds like either way, it's kind of 6 in one, half dozen in the other.
Correct, yeah.
Just the way it works out.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to the property manager, property owner for this abatement, or what, why?
Yeah, they don't have to pay a full amount of taxes.
Mhm.
His full value taxes would be about 4 times that for full valuation, so.
And that's established by the city, not the
Correct,
us.
that's a resident, or it's a Community Reinvestment Act.
To try and get
Is
people
what
to
it is,
build.
the CRA. It's to have them
Apartments.
do commercial improvements, or you can do residential additions, but not new construction, that's not covered. We've talked to the city back and forth about that, and there would be benefits to both sides, I think, to expand on that. But where they're at, they're grandfathered in the old CRA, they'd have to create a whole new CRA program to change it now. So we'll see if that ever happens.
You mean to add the new construction?
Correct.
So they're not?
I think it would be beneficial to the community in full, and even if they just did in lieu of payment to the school district, so we didn't lose all our income off new builds, but it would dramatically increase development for new housing if we had it, I believe, so, but something that needs to be looked into, is being looked into, I should say, and we'll see if it ever happens.
Just long-term conversations.
Yeah, correct.
Good question.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, item number 9 is to approve the district's 2020 submission of the 5-year forecast. Just want to touch on a couple of things briefly. As you're looking at the forecast, the revenues, obviously this includes the renewal in the taxes, and you can see that. And based upon what I'm told from the county auditor, property valuations are increasing quite a bit in this reval year, which should put us firmly on what they call the 20 mil floor. That's the lowest millage that they'll assess. So as you watch taxes go out from 21 through 25, you will see increases in tax revenue, and that's because we're on that 20 mil floor. Other than that, there really isn't a significant change in the revenue going out on this forecast. The other thing I want to say, and Dr. Ken and I are both well aware of this, the fair funding bill that's in the House and the Senate. If that's successful and passes, this forecast will look totally different.
Could you explain the fair funding bill a little bit? Well, just, what does it mean for the small
Monetarily,
schools?
what does it mean?
Well, the picture we were given, if it was fully implemented, next year we would see $2.7 million more than what we're getting now. But it's going to be phased, if it passes, it's supposed to be phased in over a 6-year period. However, that spreadsheet that we got is based on the information they know at this point in time. It will change every year.
Yeah.
You know, our valuations are going up. It's going to change in that formula. It's based on property wealth and also income wealth. So, I mean, that's the biggest factor in there. But, you know, what it does is it gets the state of Ohio to comply with the Supreme Court rulings from 20 years ago, that school funding, probably longer than that, school funding
94 or something.
was not fair, not adequate. This is a positive step in that direction. The problem is, how is the state going to come up with the money to fund this program? Because it is quite a bit more money than what the state is putting in education right now. So,
But it's got bipartisan support.
yes, it does. It's got legs and it's running right now.
Good.
I received an email from the OSBA as I was their rep. They're pushing pretty hard. And I was laughing with Bill that it's one of the one times where the OSBA, or the school board from inner city Dayton and the school board from Celina have very similar goals, because rural and urban were the ones that are disproportionately affected. And so you're getting that kind of a odd bedfellow, so to speak, really pushing for it. So they talked about it at the annual meeting, that it's a legislative goal.
And that could go to the floor relatively soon.
Yeah, they want to pass it in the lame duck session,
Yeah.
because there's several of the senators that are term limited, that have sponsored this bill, or at the top of the totem pole for sponsoring, and they want it passed.
Yeah. Has Governor DeWine signaled support?
I have not heard anything from the governor's office on this, but I'm assuming if it's got the bipartisan support, he'd be,
He needs some wins in the legislature, so.
good point. And then looking at the forecast going on the expenditure side, what can I say is it's heavily pressured by inflationary pressures all over the place. The personal services, the fringe benefits, and the purchase services are almost 94% of what we spend in this district, with 74% of that being wages and benefits. I've got a 1% place marker for wages going out in this forecast. And then also on top of that, there's step adjustments that are included. So, I mean, you're looking at close to 2.3% total in going out. Insurance is a big issue. I've got it at 8% going forward. I'm a little scared going at 8% because at any one time, it could really jump. A couple years ago, there were schools in our same consortium that experienced 25% increase in insurance. And we were lucky and only got 12% that year. So I'm saying lucky at 12%. So unless you have any specific questions on this, I mean, it is what it is, but you know, if that passes, that fair funding bill passes, this thing changes completely.
It sounds like it's gonna be a moving target for years.
It always is a moving target. This thing is always a moving target. This is based upon what I think I know now and what I think is going to happen. So,
If the fair funding bill passes, can we count on $500,000 for 21?
I'm not prepared to say that. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, item 10 that I have is accept the following donations. It's $7,000 from the Workforce Development Initiative West Ohio for Train the Trainer education in robotics, welding, and machine trades. And also $3,000 from that same for funding for adult ed programs in robotics, welding, and machine trades. This workforce development is kind of folded, shall we say. What was her name? Bussy, who was involved with that.
Shelley Bussey.
Yeah. She
Is
took
that the
it.
AMB? Is that the AMB? No?
No, that was Andy. No, there was a person who was working in this program that has left, and it might be the same person. But they're no longer going to do this, so they're distributing their money, and TriStar's getting 10,000 of it. We also received $13,700 in grant funds from the Mercer County Civic Foundation for the athletic department.
Are those earmarked for any specific athletics or just in general?
Those will pretty much be just in general for this year.
And then there's a $1,399 anonymous donation for a percussion storage cabinet to the Mercer County Civic Foundation. And that's all I've got for tonight, unless you guys have some questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Summer. Dr. Ken?
Thank you. First off, we're going to ask you to recommend the approval of the following substitutes. We have 6 listed: Yvonne Crouch, Kaylee Patterson, Sarah Hine, Grace Schwander, Lauren Higgins, and Sawyer Weitzel. Then we're asking you to approve the resignation of Cindy Bowser, teacher assistant at Head Start. Approve a 60-day probationary contract for Rachel Hine, teacher assistant with Head Start. Numbers 4, 5, and 6 are all change of contract. Ellison Nichols changing from cafeteria worker at the high school to education aide at the primary. Linda Schindler, a cafeteria worker at the middle school. She's staying at the middle school, but going up by 3¼ hours. Have a change of contract for Becky Blanchard, cafeteria worker at the high school. She is moving to a cafeteria worker at the elementary school. There was a correction in number 7. Jeff Hayes, the Head Start bus aide, his start date has been backed up from October 20th to October 29th. We're asking you approve to hire the following 3: Emily Miller, teacher assistant at the primary; Ashley Braun, teacher assistant at the primary; and Alyssa Belna Molenkamp, teacher assistant at the primary school.
We continue on the superintendent's report. If there's any questions? Okay.
On the certified side, we're asking you to approve the following substitutes: Stephen Axe, Jill Bellard, Cindy Bowser, and Jessica Kaiser. Number 2, we're asking you to approve a 19-month administrative contract for Ashley Coots. She's filling the new position with Head Start, which is a mental health manager.
Can you explain the length of time on that contract?
How'd she get a 19-month contract?
Normally, we would give a beginning administrator 2 years, but since we're at this point already in the first year,
Okay,
that'll go, yeah, just over 1.5 years.
okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 3, we're asking you to approve the athletic pay schedule, clarifying JV football and 9th grade volleyball. Number 4, approve the following supplemental for 2020-2021. Jason Andrew is going to become a DLT member, replacing an individual who left us. There's a correction on the supplemental contract for Brett Bacher, 7th grade girls basketball coach, changing him from 3 years to 6 years of experience. Then under the pupil activity program, we have some contract changes. Jason King from half-time to full-time assistant varsity wrestling. Kevin Lockwood from assistant middle school wrestling to assistant varsity wrestling. So full-time to half-time position. Curtis Donor, a full-time position to a half-time position at assistant varsity wrestling. Andy Garwood, assistant varsity wrestling, was half-time. Now he'll move to full-time middle school assistant wrestling coach. And we're asking you to approve the following volunteers: Seth Engel and Justin Monfort, both for wrestling. And then we get into the addendum. We're asking you to approve 2 head spring sports coaches: Jason Triblett for softball, Tama Hainline for tennis.
I have a question maybe Mr. Metz can answer that. Where, let's see, we're filling the DLT position with Jason Andrew. Was that done just, someone come forward and say, I'm interested in doing it? How do you fill that position?
The position was posted, and it was a 7-12 building position, so anybody could have applied. I believe we had 2 applicants between the 2 buildings.
Okay. Any questions on the supplemental? We can go on with the resolution, then Dr. Ken.
Very good. We have asking you to approve the change of the Head Start Administrative Compensation Plan. Under TriStar, we're asking you to approve the TriStar Advisory Board referral number 131. That's to purchase meter kits to be used in both automotive and ag mechanics. This is the latest in engine technology and will contain 20 kits with training materials and credentials. Funds will be taken out of the Reserve Capital Fund. Number 2, accept the donation of equipment to the TriStar Animal Science Program from Velco, located in Coldwater. Value of the donation is $25,000. Also to accept the donation of a 2008 Ford E250 van from Ray's Refrigeration in Coldwater to the TriStar Auto Program. Value of this donation is $3,000. Then for the Head Start report, that's attachment number 4. We're requesting approval for the carryover of funds from fiscal year 1920 to fiscal year 2021. That's associated with the CARES Act funding in response to COVID-19. Number 3, requesting approval for the carryover funds from fiscal year 1920 to fiscal year 2021 associated with the quality improvement funding awarded to the grantee.
Got a question regarding TriStar. Maybe Mr. Summer can help me here. The approval of TriStar Advisory Board to purchase this meter kit. At what level do we, or what monetary amount do we have to make the approval? Do you know?
I don't know what that is, but it's in the TriStar agreement. And this is out of the reserve capital that TriStar has. So, I mean, it's not like it's our general fund.
Right. I just wondered, you know, for us to have to approve it, it had to reach some kind of a threshold.
$8,000.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I can't remember. Anybody remember that down there?
I thought it was either 5 or 8,000, it's probably 8.
Yeah, it's just a shade over 8 is what the quote is. Pretty reasonable. I think.
I can find out for you.
I'm just curious on what that number is, what it has to reach for us to approve it.
Well, we're one of 9 districts. All 9 school boards are approving this, so.
They have to get approval from all 9.
Yes,
So not just us as the financial.
correct.
Wow.
So if 5 districts say, no, we don't want you to buy that, they don't buy it.
What if one district says no?
That's
Majority.
It's just majority vote, okay.
That's rough.
I think we're to D.
Correct.
Anyone want to remove anything from the consensus agenda? And approval of remaining consensus agenda items.
ready for roll call.
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Huber,
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich,
Yes.
Mr. Flack,
Yes.
Mr. Sarah.
Yes. Dr. Ken, did you want to give this under informational items?
Yes.
Okay.
Good time for that at this point. Did prepare a handout for the board members here. The first item talking about the COVID-19 numbers that the district's been experiencing. At this point since July, it's like over the past 5 months here, we have had 310 total students and staff members who have either tested positive, were probable cases, or have been asked to quarantine. So that total, there were 17 students have tested positive, 33 staff have tested positive, 3 students have been probable cases, and 2 staff have been probable cases. So I went down the list by building. What are our current numbers? So after school today, at the primary school, we had 1 student quarantined, no staff quarantined. At the elementary school, the sheet I gave you earlier was 7. We added 11 today, so currently we have 18 students at the elementary school quarantined, 0 staff quarantined. At the intermediate building, currently 3 students quarantined, 5 staff quarantined. At the middle school, we have 4 students quarantined and 4 staff who are quarantined. At Celina High School, we added 6 just late this afternoon, evening. So we're at 83 students quarantined currently at the high school, and 2 staff are quarantined at the high school. At TriStar, we have 2 staff quarantined currently. I did have the opportunity to speak with all the building administrators today, and they feel the same as I do, that we need to continue with having our students in our buildings for as long as we can. Many of our students need the extra help, which we can provide with their schoolwork. Many of these being special education students. There are many students who rely on us for their breakfast and lunch, and we are able to now offer that through the end of the school year at no cost to the students. Many parents rely on us to be there so they can continue working. Now, we do seem to rotate staff, as there are some quarantined, others are returning back to the classroom. Yes, we are short on subs, but there's no question the positive character of our staff and of our administrators have kept us going. So we feel that we can continue to go as we are. Certainly, we'd like to see some changes made. Hopefully, some of the enactments that the governor has put in place will start having some lower cases here in Mercer County, and maybe we'll be able to get this thing turned around.
Dr. Ken,
Yes.
this number of 83 students quarantined, that's not positive, that's just quarantined because of close proximity to someone that tested positive, is that correct?
Only a few of them actually from someone who was positive. Most of them are from probable cases, which means that somebody in their family had it and they were exhibiting signs.
Okay.
If a student's teacher has been quarantined, are all of the students in that class, are their parents informed of that?
Not if the teacher is just quarantined. However, if a teacher tests positive, then all the students in that class and also in the school building are notified.
I had a mother very concerned that her child's teacher was in quarantine and she had not been notified. Would that be difficult to do, to notify the parents of the students whose teacher had been quarantined?
I think it would probably add confusion. I think we're better off following what the Department of Health has recommended that we follow.
So it's only if they test positive?
Or if they are a probable case.
Or a probable case, okay.
Yes.
Showing symptoms.
Okay.
Has there been any trace back to any of our students who have got sick? Have they received it from coming to school, or has it all been outside infections?
By the far majority, it's been from the outside. I have not heard back any from the health department that they said that this case was caused by this case.
Okay.
Now, across the state of Ohio, we've been working with many other of the school districts and submitting information, data that actually shows of the number of students that had to quarantine, how many of them have actually picked up the coronavirus because of the quarantine from school. And that number is so close to 0 that the governor is going to be making a determination here in December based on those statistics if that quarantine time is going to be shortened for our students.
Correct, yeah.
Could you please explain, when you say probable, what does the ODH, what are their explanations of probable?
Let's say a student would have a parent who has tested positive, and now the student is showing signs that they have it. Instead of testing, they'll just say they are a probable case and they need to quarantine. But then when they let us know that, then we need to quarantine those that are around them.
Okay, thank you.
So sometimes we do have questions on how long does a person have to quarantine. For a person that tests positive, you go back to the first day that they were showing symptoms, that's day 0, count 10 days forward. For someone who quarantines, day 0 is the last day that they were in contact with the positive or the probable case. That's day 0, and you count 14 days ahead from there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So of 310 people that have been tested, students and faculty, we've had 50 positive. That's your first real paragraph there.
Of those that have been quarantined or out of school, correct. You would have 50 that have tested positive out of that group. And that does go back to July.
And percentage-wise, what are we talking, total teaching staff and students in our district?
Close to 3,000.
Okay.
Any idea why the high school is so much higher? Is it just because the potential of the virus interacts the older you get, or is it they're hanging out in cars, going home together, spending time together? What's our gut on that?
More people here.
We
More
do
people in the
have-
high school?
And we do change classes at the high school every period as well.
There you go.
So,
That's-
like TriStar, the kids are together
it.
for the full
Yeah.
morning, the full afternoon.
I knew there was something, there was some
Primary school,
variable that
together.
we were, there, and one kid can be with their entire class throughout the day versus 20 kids in Miss Hoover's second grade class and they don't.
Well, it's not necessarily, because they change at CIS and CMS also.
Correct.
It's probably more of a factor of them hanging out with each other.
CIS being
after
the
school.
newest building as well, it has the largest classrooms, so they are able to spread apart
Yeah.
a lot better there than some of the other buildings.
And we've got over 800 students here, Mr. Matz?
700,
Okay.
about 100 some doing remote learning, so. Yep. We, just a comment today that we went around, when this all started, we told our kids, the teachers, it was, as a teacher, you would know, don't seat your students alphabetically, let them sit with their friend groups. So as we go from class to class, a lot of times a student that would be quarantined is the same student would be quarantined in the next period and in the next period throughout the day. So it's really reduced the numbers that we could have had to quarantine. So,
Okay.
I'm sure for a first-year teacher, that was probably pretty difficult, saying, friends, just sit together.
all right.
Yeah.
What's the, don't mean to put you on the spot being the only administrator. What's the general attitude, feeling amongst your staff and the educators?
There's no 2 days are the same. It's starting to get tiring, but they're holding up. They recognize this is what's best for the kids, so they prefer to be here. We have most of our teachers that are notified that they're probable or they might have to test. It's how soon can I get back? What do I have to do? I want to be with my kids. Most teachers.
Yeah, everyone's case is gonna be different, and if you go home and you get sick, you're not thinking about getting back, you're worried about getting healthy, but have we had any teachers, at least in the high school, that have taught while on quarantine? So they're doing any like Google Classroom stuff or anything like that, or once they on quarantine, if they kinda had to just sit it out and?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're working through their Google Classroom, so.
So they're
Yeah,
at home.
it depends on the symptoms.
Yeah, so if they're healthy, asymptomatic, so to
Correct.
speak, they're able to keep teaching.
Yeah, if they're not showing symptoms, they can quarantine as long as they mask, remain 6 feet,
Mhm.
check their temperatures twice a day. So we've got teachers that could have stayed home, but they come here to quarantine.
Yeah,
They just distance from their students.
yeah.
Is there kind of a consistent mask policy from classroom to classroom, or does that change?
Oh, no.
It's pretty
It's,
consistent.
we patrol the halls to make sure
Okay.
that it stays as consistent as what it can. We left it up to the teachers based on the temperature of the building and how things are classroom to classroom. They do mask breaks, and that's up to the teacher in the classroom. We try not to have every student, in that circle all take a mask break at the same time, but they have water bottles, so if they want to take a drink, they can pull their mask down, take a drink. Get some
Have you
fresh air.
identified students with the virus through temperature readings as they're entering the building?
We have not identified anyone with a fever that's over. The thermometers at the doors are set at 100 degrees, so no one has been, I don't know, we've had any in the 99. most are normal, 97, 98, point something.
I know at my daughter's school, they flagged one, now whether it was, but she walked in and it was a big deal. Someone got a red on the thermometer, and so, but again, a fever's cooking in the morning and mom and dad didn't realize.
Thank you, Mr. Metz.
So I guess I'd like to ask again, just to make sure I understood correctly, that there has been no transfer from student to student or staff to student in the school district? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
That's not just one building, that's the whole school district.
Correct.
It's all come from outside.
That's everything that we've had thus far from the health department.
Have they had any issues busing, with the busing?
We had to use the contact tracing twice on the buses to go back and
Okay,
quarantine students that were close on the bus.
I know
But
the
again,
bus-
that didn't spread to the other
The
students.
bus drivers are forcing them to wear masks on the bus also.
Yes, they are.
so.
I
Do you
can
know,
see 'em when
did anybody
you pass
ask
it.
this, the Mercer County Health Department, Dr. Ken, how do you know that it wasn't transferred from within the elementary or within the intermediate school, from one student to another?
Yeah, they were involved with the contact tracing, so that's why they had the individuals at the health department making the phone calls.
Because most of them have parents that have tested positive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Most people go.
they're getting it from
Yes.
home.
Mom,
You're right.
The governor was on, and they called it living room passing. I mean, and that's,
It's
mom and dad get it.
It's in the community.
Yeah.
But if a lot of kids are asymptomatic, I don't know how they would know if one was transferred to another, since neither one of them really showed symptoms.
Well,
You
then,
understand what I mean?
if their parents don't have it,
Mhm.
then you know the kid picked it up.
Educated guess. I mean, I think that's what a lot of this is right now. We're just,
Yeah,
it's a
unfortunately.
guess.
Where are we, Dr. Ken? Are we ready for executive session?
Yes, sir.
I would just say that if anyone is watching, I know we get emails and stuff like this. I know I speak for myself, and I'm sure we care about this stuff. We're on top of this. We're getting reports every week and daily about it. People can always contact their building principal if you have concerns. That we're open to these kinds of things, but there's no perfect plan here. We're doing the best we can in the middle of a pandemic, and so unfortunately, I think sometimes people are expecting perfection, and that's not going to happen. There's going to be quarantines, unfortunately, God forbid, there's going to be cases, but we're doing the best we can with what we can. But they can always reach out to their building principal if they have concerns or questions, and obviously their kids' teachers are personally.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, they can reach out to us too. I may not always agree with some of the emails or texts that I might get as far as people being really upset, but feel free to contact us. That's why we're here.
One question I would ask Dr. Kent, do we have any fat in the schedule that we could, if we ever had to, end a week before Christmas break, or extend it out or anything like that? And you might not know that off the top of your head. That's again some of the questions coming in, parents going, hey, should we give more time off in December to try and let the boiling pot settle down? Do we have any fat in our schedule that we could even do that without extending the school year? My
We
guess
could
is
do
not,
that,
since we-
and recall back at the start of the year, we did use 5 days.
That's what I heard.
Right.
So,
And we have used 2 calamity days already now too, so we have 3 more calamity days, 3 E days, and we're left probably after that with close to 10 days that we have enough hours built in the schedule that we could take a look at something like that possibly.
that was just the idea of the rolling boil, turn it off the heat for a second, or I'm even seeing some districts that are given some time after January. The idea being if families do choose to celebrate Christmas, New Year's, that they would give some time to get back at home and potential symptoms onsets before they come back to school versus returning on the 4th.
Or give us a chance to clean the schools really well.
Although
Disinfect.
I'm going to have maybe a less popular opinion of that. I think if you put the kids at home, especially the older ones, they're going to be having sleepovers with friends 7 nights a week instead of 2. I think they're going to be playing with their friends.
No, certainly.
I do think there's going to be more interaction. I'm not sure they're going to be better off at home in some cases than they are at school.
Yeah, it depends on parents.
I mean, because as Mr. Metz said, the teachers are diligent about keeping masks on and trying to maintain the protocol. That's
So-
not gonna happen at home.
So at least we just know that we do have some flexibility should it ever require, like Deb said, a deep clean of, hey, we need to bring in a contingent to spray things
Because
down.
isn't that what Wapop did? They shut down for, I think they shut down for 2 weeks, didn't they?
I don't believe it was that long, but they
But
did.
they, but there's, what I heard was
One
because
week.
they wanted to do a deep clean because of their cases, is that correct?
I'm not sure what the reason, but they did not attend at all the week of Thanksgiving, so this week plus next week.
Oh, so they're right now, they're shut down. Are they doing any?
Remote.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, that they're,
Well, and then, okay, now like some of the universities, they've got sanitizing people, students actually, that go into some of the rooms that are, okay, maybe the band room, maybe the choral music room, those type of things, and they're sanitizing every night. Do we have sanitizing going on daily?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we have the backpack sprayers in all the
Explain.
rooms, so we have extra people hired and,
Okay,
yep. Some people are getting overtime pay because we're running out of enough workers that are less than 40 hours. So some workers with 40 hours are putting in some extra hours here too.
And another pharmaceutical today came out with a vaccine 95% effective. So that's the second one.
and it doesn't need as low of temperature.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't need the extreme low
Right,
control
nor do you
of
need
the
2 shots, you
temperature.
need 1.
Right,
So that's good news for us, everybody.
but it's still gonna take time.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a long time till we have enough vaccines for everybody.
Anyone else? Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
But we have to say why.
for employment.
There we go.
Number 2.
Seconded by, yeah, there it is. Seconded by Mrs. Voorhees. Roll call, please.
Was that Carl that did the?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't catch it right here. Mr. Huber,
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees,
Yes?
Mrs. Gingrich,
Yes.
Mr. Flack,
Yes.
Mr. Sell.
Yes. Thank you. We'll go into executive session for the discussion of employment.
6:42.